Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
For those who have been here before, half an hour ago, same procedure as then. If you can't hear us, just give us a little sign that we need to talk louder. And I'm here to be the relation to the chat. So I'm sorry, the microphones are not for you, but for people online. We're doing our best. But hello and very welcome to a GM workshop. How do you run Daggerheart? So, I probably don't need to introduce the people next to me, but these are Rowan and Spenser. They've written the book on Daggerheart, literally, so I do hope you can give us some tips and advice on how to run Daggerheart for different play styles. How to GM.
Yeah. Well, I think that how many of you have GM Daggerheart before? Okay. So a fair number. How many of you are brand new GMs to Daggerheart?
Hell yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Of those that are brand new, that are prepping to have you, how many of you know nothing about how to run the game at all? Okay, a couple of people.
Hell yeah.
So I think.
Can I ask one other question?
Yes, please, of course.
How many folks who are new to GMing Daggerheart have run other games? Okay,
great.
So can I give our
foundation.
caveat?
Please.
So our one caveat that we always give at the beginning so that we don't have to keep giving it throughout is take what you want and leave the rest. There are a lot of ways to approach gameplay, game making, game enjoying. If you don't like it, no sweat, throw it away. All is well. So we're gonna give you like our perspective and we'll all cook from there.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll start off by talking about specific to Daggerheart.
Yes.
What, since it seems like most of you have run games before, but not run Daggerheart before. The big changes to expect. I'm going to assume that most of you are coming from a D&D or Pathfinder style play, although I know that's not true of everyone. So in cases where it's relevant, I'll point out things from other games that might also be helpful. But I'll assume that we're coming from that trad kind of space because I think that's the most likely place that we're coming from. So, Daggerheart calls out its asymmetry in a really specific way, meaning most games that you run as a role-playing game are asymmetrical.
Meaning the players and the GM are playing
different games entirely. In Daggerheart, they also roll different dice. The players are rolling 2d12, the GM is rolling a d20. Why? The players are playing a heroic role-playing game, and they're running the game, they're playing the game by the rules of the game. The rules of the game say you can only have this high of a modifier. You have to spend this currency to be able to add additional points to that modifier. There's a lot of restraint that the game puts on them inherently because it's a game. GMs don't play by those rules. Your whole job is to facilitate the story of the players. So you have a d20. It's more swingy. Great. It's really fun when you fail. It's also fun when you succeed.
D20, flat 5%.
Right.
What you're going to roll. 2d12, sexy bell curve.
So it means that when you roll, both when players fail, it feels bad, right? For them, most of the time. And so, for the GM, both outcomes are good. One lets you put pressure on the players, and one makes them feel awesome. Both those outcomes are great. There's no downside. So I think that's one of the big, mechanical differences. You also have fear that you get to spend. So in Daggerheart, when the players roll, they either generate hope or fear. That fear is currency you can spend. Why? We can do things anyways. Why do we have a currency? Specifically, it's a show of good faith to the players, and it lets you spend a thing to say, I'm putting my hand on the scale. There's a specific thing of like, I want to have multiple guys go. I can just spend that fear. Sort of lair-action-y or legendary action-y.
Actually, were folks at the show last night, the CR show last night? The whole time they were running, Mercer was running the lair, Spencer and I were like, oh my God, that's an environment.
He's just spending fear. Yeah, it's all just environments. Spending fear is a way to be able to show your players, hey, I know I'm going to do something big here, or I know I'm going to take a big swing here. I'm paying for it. It also makes me as a GM feel like I'm playing with them. So approach-wise, from mechanics, it's quite unique in that way. Do you want to talk about like the approach from the narrative side of the GM? Do you want to jump into that?
I'm interested in what you're prompting me to say.
Okay.
But I don't know what you are prompting me to say. But I can jump in with another thing.
Okay, yeah, please.
I would also say, sometimes I see in folks who come from traditional games kind of an adversarial relationship with the players, or the players having an adversarial relationship with the GM. And Daggerheart is narrative first. We're all trying to get together and tell a story. And so we're about to talk about session zeros, where everybody kind of gets together and figures out what kind of game that you're playing. And I think one of the talks that you can have during that session zero, if it feels useful, that really sets yourself up for success, is to remind the players that you are the friction by which they become heroes. Because we don't tell stories about people who stay home in their kitchen and don't go on adventures. And if they go on their adventures and they don't encounter any dragons, it's not an adventure. They're just walking from point A to point B. And so when you put things in your way, when you have a kick-ass session zero, and you know they want to tell a story about grief, they want to tell a story about found family, they want to tell a story about crushing oppression. When you put tragedy and folks coming together and annihilating the man in front of them, it is helping them tell a story. And when they defeat those things, or when those things have them on the back foot, it feels really good. So I think if you set yourself up for that mindset shift, and if you root for them when they crush your bad guys, it encourages them to root for you. I think it's really... This is not an opinion that everybody at our company shares. So let me just say, for me, the GM is also a player. I think it's really important that GMs have a good time. And I think part of GMs having a good time is other people at the table being interested in the fun you're having also. I think it's getting some of the fucking work off your plate and putting it in the players' hands. And I think those things require a lot of trust, and you can set yourself up for that with a session zero.
Yes. So, so understanding that all of you are coming together in Daggerheart to tell a story together allows you to have a session zero where your whole goal as the GM is to get as much information out of the players about what they want as possible. So, one of the things that I do, so in Daggerheart, there is a character guide. That's the second page of the character sheet.
It's the second page of the character sheet. It is not a page that should be excluded.
What do you mean?
Like, okay, okay. I think a lot of people think that the character guide is like this extra bonus, cool, fun thing if you want it. Personally, if you want to set yourself up for success, I would say you should treat it like the second page of the character sheet, meaning it's not something that should be yeeted.
Right. So that second page of the character sheet has two things on it that I think are really key. One of them is the for GM. One of them is the background questions, and one of them is the connections. Typically, these are things that in the past have been a little bit relegated to the sidelines. As a GM, these are your best friends.
And they
Daggerheart
seem like they're written for the players.
Yes.
Because they're asking players questions. And we throw out dozens upon dozens of questions for players that don't serve the GM, because the not secret is that we're making them for you guys.
Yeah. So those questions are for the players. They're great. They'll do the players a great service, ideally. But yes,
I'm so sorry, but I'm getting feedback from the chat that your enthusiasm
is knocking the mic.
Are we peeking the mic?
So if we can try to hit the table list.
So
I'm so sorry.
So background questions and connection questions are for you as a GM. Your players answer them. And then your job is to dig. What I mean by that is that they generally, well, it depends on what kind of players you have. But generally, if they're answering them at the table, they'll write a sentence or two. As a GM, then you ask your questions. You listen and respond. The biggest thing in Daggerheart, the biggest advice I could give you is ask questions and incorporate the answers. That is the number one thing that will take the weight off of you. And the number one thing that makes the table feel collaborative. So as they answer, there was somebody in your past that you wronged and they're now chasing you. They go, yeah, I made the king really upset. And the king's mad at me and I'm not allowed in my kingdom anymore. That might be the answer to their question. Your job as a GM in that session 0 is to then go, great. Tell me more about who's chasing you specifically. Has the king sent a king's guard after you? Do you know them? Were you friends with them? What relationship do you have with them? What do they look like? What did you do? Right? Like, we dig into those questions. And the more you dig into those questions, the more that you're going to find the campaign writes itself. Even if you have a bunch of other stuff happening in the background for you that you're excited about, those parts are the parts that are going to become the forefront of your campaign, because in Daggerheart, unlike like more the OSR or trad kind of scene in specific, Daggerheart asks that the characters at the table are protagonists. Mm-hmm. The characters are the focus of the story. It's not what's happening to them. It is like, we are following them for a reason. And our job is to understand why. If the hero of a book didn't have a reason to be the protagonist, it wouldn't be as compelling. So putting yourself in that mindset of, how do I make this story resonate for these players? That background questions will get you there.
I would also say, when you're doing the background questions and the connection questions, do them as a table together with all of the players in one space. The connection questions point you there because they're asking the players to make decisions about connections with one another as they build their characters. The background questions seem like they could maybe be removed from that, but try, if you're so inclined, to do it all together at the session 0, because I think one of the best ways to have an easier time as a GM is to have a ringer at your table. A ringer is what Spenser and I call the player that you know is always going to do the thing. So if you put a door in front of them, that player's going to run through it when everyone else is like, oh, maybe we should, I don't know, what if the lock and they're going to be like, we're opening the door. They're the player who's going to root for the other people. They're going to pick up the story threads. If you can turn all of your players into people who are doing that a little bit, then no one has to do it all the time. And so if you have connections between different characters, if you get other characters to tie their backstory into one another, it means that if your character, the king, is chasing you, and I'm like, the king's my brother. Like, okay, cool. Now we're like cooking with something. Like, what does that mean if you're from that kingdom? Now, when you're about to have your dramatic moment as a player, I can throw the ball up and you can knock it out of the park. And it's not all on the GM. Yeah.
GM no longer is the one who has to bring together all these disparate threads. It's all actually built collectively. And the connection questions are kind of the solidifier for that, right? So having the players talk to each other creates this cohesion within the group that allows you to jump into a campaign and already feel like there's story happening that matters to more than one person. Because now suddenly we care about each other. And one of the things we talk about in horror, but also in fantasy, is that the biggest fear tends to, like, in order to create stakes and drama that matters, we have to care about characters. And in order for somebody to, in order for a character to feel like they care about what's happening to the rest of the party, they have to have a stake in that person. Mm-hmm. So getting them to have stakes in each other means that when you are on the back foot getting, getting hit over and over, and I'm across the battlefield, I'm running to help you because I care about you. And so that that approach, the making this, doing the session 0 together, talking through the characters together, helps to like glue the party together. And if you want to play out the prequel, like some people like to start in a tavern, nobody knows each other, and that's totally fine if you want to do that. My recommendation is you actually skip that. You start when you're together, and then during play, we flash back.
Flashback.
We do a session where it's 2 people who knew each other before anybody else, and you include everybody in it, but we just sit in flashbacks with these characters throughout your session. Then you're getting the answer to those questions, but we're jumping in the middle of the action so that we're playing the game. We're telling the story in an engaging way.
I think flashbacks are kind of the secret sauce.
Yes.
Flashbacks are the best because they allow you to not have to do the slower moments. You can bring them in with it when it's meaningful. You can have that running across the battlefield to go save your comrade, and then we cut to a moment when you were running to save someone else from your past and you couldn't do it, and now you get to have this emotional fulfillment. And the cool thing about flashbacks is they buy you time. Because they're very exciting and very fun, and they put the ball really firmly back in the player's court. And at least for me, sometimes they buy me a minute to think. Like, you can be like, oh, right, stat blocks. And it's not like the cool side of GMing, but I think flashbacks, they allow things to breathe really emotionally. Because a lot of times I put them in a really beautiful moment of action. I flash back, we all catch our breath, we dig in on the emotion, and then I hit them really hard. The other thing that I would say in your session 0, do you know that problem that folks talk about a lot, where you have an NPC as a GM that you care so much about and you built, and you're like, I don't know if the players are going to care about it. And maybe they do, maybe they don't. But if you do your session 0 together, and together you create the king, who's the brother of another player and chasing someone else, they've told you who they want the NPC to be. And now you get to build them. You still get to go in there and like dig and make these really cool moments and stat them up if you want to and figure out how to have them appear. But they've told you that they care about them. So you don't have to make this amazing bad guy and then they're like, I don't give a shit about that. I want to go follow the dog.
Yeah. One of the
dog is never the bad guy.
One of the other things that I find really useful as a GM in my session 0, and then as I'm prepping to run a campaign, is I will identify for what the players have come up with, the themes. We kind of hit on this a little bit before, but identifying what themes have come out of this. So, for example, in the Candela Obscura session campaign that I ran on Critical Role, I had no idea going in what it was going to be, what it was going to be like, what the characters are going to. I had no plans. I have nothing. The players all made their characters, and all of them had some relation to war. And suddenly the entire campaign became about war. That just came out of all of them finding a thing. Now, all of my prep is to go find all the like smaller themes inside of war and bring those out at the table by basically putting a mirror up to them, saying, here's what you've given me, I'm giving it back to you. But the really useful part of this for me is that if I know that the theme is war, then I might have something like, what was?
We always say in the room when we're designing, you beat the theme over the head.
Beat the theme over the head.
Which we do, and we do it in our writing, we do it in play, and by the like 5th time you've hit the theme, you're like, oh my god, this is so much, they'll never notice, and the players are like, oh my god, I can't believe this theme is coming up for the first time in the game. And you're like, sure, okay.
But let's say like loss of innocence and grief, 2 themes of war, right? When I have a question about what kind of move to make as a GM, and we'll talk about this more later, but when I have a question about what kind of move to make as a GM, what NPC to introduce, what flashback to go to, what interesting event I should have unfolding outside of the PCs that they might want to get engaged with, I can just go back to the themes that I've established for my campaign, and I can pull from those. So if it's grief, somebody lost their brother in a war. When they arrive at a town if I put a person in there who has also lost somebody very close to them, a family member, I know I have a character who's going to care about that because they themselves lost somebody. And so I can pull people in just by utilizing those themes as hooks. That will make your prep so much easier because you can look down and go, okay, I haven't hit this theme in a little bit or this theme in a little bit. I'm going to build something that combines those two together. Kuleshov effect, which we were talking about before. Take the two themes, put them together, figure out what third image comes out, and that's your session prep. So like you can really lean on those when you're not sure what kind of place to go next or what events to have unfold.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit on it earlier, I think, maybe than we were planning.
Okay.
But we call this the treasure chest problem. If you're on the internet, I'm sure you've seen this. The problem of like, well, if I trust my players to make decisions about the world, then when I say, what do you find in the treasure chest? They'll be like, I find a legendary weapon that can kill anything. And it always crits. And you're like, whoa. And people get really afraid of that. And I totally understand. And there is a way to allow your players to contribute to the world because you get to control the questions that you ask. So when you're building the world with the players, there's the session 0 where we're all just ideating and we're not in play yet. And then we have to take it to the table. And you should still let the players help you build the world because you can trust them. And so you go to the treasure chest and you want to let them contribute to what's in there, but you do not want to let them put their crazy legendary weapon. So you say, you unlock the treasure chest, it flips open, you find a handful of gold, a ruby that's shimmering in the candlelight, and you notice a letter with a symbol from your hometown. What signature did your brother always put at the end of his letter so you knew it was him? And then they describe the signature. Boom, baby, I'm going to flashback now. Like, I'm pulling myself in there. Or I say, what color was the dragon that you almost lost your life to? You say, oh, it was red. Like, you see littering the bottom among the ruby, red dragon scales. You get to decide. You get to pull the threads however you want. They've contributed, they didn't give you a legendary weapon, and it doesn't always have to be a treasure chest.
Yeah.
So I think once you create the world together in your session 0, don't leave it in the session 0. And one of the ways that we do that is by passing around a map in Daggerheart that's not labeled. We let the players all label it together. When they have the name of their the Bell Song is the village that they came from. They get to put that on the map. That way, when we take them there, they get to decide what it looks like. But we also allow them to fill in names that are in a pick list on the bottom of the map and say it's Dragon's Peak. You say, okay, you put Dragon's Peak on the map and you pick any of the mountains that are on the map. And when you put it there, I ask another question. I say, why is it called Dragon's Peak? And maybe you say, well, it's called Dragon's Peak because dragons used to live here, but they don't live here anymore. Why do people think that is? And we dig on it, and now it's not just me as the GM being like, I think this Dragon Extinction Mountain would be so cool. It's the player thought this Dragon Extinction Mountain would be so cool, and I'm going to serve it up on a silver platter for them.
And I think that as a GM, you get the chance to put so much of yourself into the game at every moment that you run. Also using that as an opportunity to take what the player is interested in and then incorporate the thing that you're excited for too. So you don't have to feel like there's some hesitation, I think, in that collaborative world building of like, well, what am I contributing to this? Oh, sorry, Mike. What am I contributing to this? And ultimately it's like, well, you get to take in the pieces that are exciting to you and then introduce other threads of themes or ideas or concepts or world building that you like that plays nicely with what your players are excited for, right? So it's more about creating a stew. It's about like having a cauldron where everybody throws in ingredients, and you might decide what the broth flavor is, but they're going to put in all the ingredients besides that, and you stir it all up, and then you make a thing, and it's the product of everybody at the table bringing their ideas to the game, which really helps as a GM to make your players care. think it's something that, for those of you who've played, like, the hardest part is to make, for me, is like before I did it this way, is like, how do I get my players to care about the thing that we're playing? You show that you hold a mirror up to them and let them see what they've given you.
I think the other part of this is when you're passing the map around, you should also fill in stuff on the map.
Yes.
When you're talking about themes you want to explore, you should also let the table know what themes you want to explore, because the GM's a player.
Yeah. Okay, something else that that I think as you start to move from your session 0 into your sessions of play, that we talk about a lot, is like, as you're doing your prep, you want to ensure that your scenes have dramatic weight. What does that mean? Well, in Daggerheart, we are thinking in story. Mm-hmm. We aren't just putting stuff out and seeing what happens most of the time. At least that's the way that I run it. I'm going, this is happening because of this. And if there's not something interesting going on, we cut. We cut out of that scene and we cut into the next scene. Right? So like thinking cinematically to go like, okay, getting from here to there, is there anything interesting that I find, that I as the GM or that the players might find is dangerous, gives them more information that they need to know? If there's not,
cut it.
Just cut. We cut to, you'll see me do it in the actual play probably, because it's ingrained in me. We cut to this.
Or when you have those moments where everyone's like, I don't know, maybe the plan should be this, and someone's like, the plan should be that, and someone's like, the plan should be this, and you're like, it doesn't matter what the plan is. The next time someone says, and the plan should be this, you go, and we cut to, and there you are putting them in the plan.
Some fun part of that as well is they can go, I don't know what to do next. And they go, somebody goes, I have a plan. And you say, and we cut to that plan. Just interject, and then you all can talk about it if you want. What did you guys plan for? What do we see? What do we see in flashbacks?
Yes, it's not about taking away their agency or stopping them from having fun. It's about putting them in positions where their actions matter. So if they're trying to make their plan in a peaceful grove where there are only butterflies, what if they were trying to make their plan in a back alley that's being patrolled by guards where in any moment maybe an opportunity is going to close? It's about like the stuff of story.
Yeah. Yeah, do you want to relay?
Yeah, just relaying that generally the idea of making the plan is also implementing the plan at the same time. You play the scene as you're planning.
And I think you can totally do that, especially with a table that you trust. Mm-hmm. Right? Like the more trust you can build, the more trust that because specifically the players, I find oftentimes, especially people coming from trad games, the players are always worried that I as the GM am trying to fuck them over. That I'm trying to hurt them, and I'm trying to put them in a position where they're gonna be punished for something that they've done or for not thinking ahead. The trust that I have to build is, we're telling this story together. I'm not looking to trick you. I'm not looking to like break your trust. I am looking to put fun complications in your way.
I had a moment of that recently, actually. I was running a game of Candela in Croatia, and they arrived at the location, and I essentially was like, go here. In more or less words. Like narratively, I was like, this is where we're going. And one of the players was like, okay, well, we have to take our bags and we have to put them in the hotel. And I was like, you're afraid that if you don't put your belongings somewhere safe, as the GM, I'm going to take them. I'm going to like, gotcha, and steal them from you. And I had to teach them that that's not how we were going to play this one shot. We're driving it like a stolen car.
We have 2 hours.
We got 2 hours. And so I organically, I had the NPC that was supposed to meet them come up and go, oh, I'll take your bags for you. And just carried them into the next location. I was like, I don't give a shit about your suitcases because I'm not going to take them from you. There's no gotcha moment here. And as soon as they felt organically that they didn't have to outthink me, they didn't play looking for those little moments of preparation, and they started being in the action with me.
Yeah. Should we jump to session prep or 3 box?
3 box method.
Okay.
Can I tell a story about you?
Please,
to intro?
yes.
Okay, so.
Oh, yes.
How to dig into the questions without the players going, what? Am I being investigated?
For me, it is oftentimes showing them the good faith that you have. Meaning when you ask them questions, that you then give them the opportunity to play in the space that they've made, and they can watch their ideas come to fruition in a way that isn't used against them, but is used in service of the story. And I think that it's a little bit approach. It's like, hey, tell me more about this. Like, for example, and then I promise we'll get to 3 box. In one of the one shots I was running, also in Croatia just recently, I had them build, before we got started, they made like we had a desert that they were moving through. And I had all of them build out what the most like scary creature that lives in the desert is. Like, what is this thing? And they made this awesome sand dragon that could like absorb moisture out of the air and make everybody like go raisin on their hand. Like, it was terrifying, really cool. And then the scene that we jumped into in the one shot was immediately them feeling all the moisture leave the air and seeing the sand below them start to like dot and shake. And they were like, oh my God, the dragon's here. And it was an adversary, and they were going to face it. But I didn't have the adversary immediately hit them and do a ton of damage and give them no chance to respond. I showed them their impact they had on the story in real time, and then asked them to join me in the storytelling that surrounded it. Does that help?
When I'm asking questions in a session 0 to nervous or shy players, my first line of approach is showing them how excited I am. I just show them, I'm like, oh my God, I love that. Tell me more. I just like start by just showing them like I'm thrilled.
Yeah,
I'm
a fan of your players.
I think the second thing that I pull out is I actually learned from interacting with toddlers, which is no slight. It's just really good advice. Which is I give them a this or this. Like if someone's really, really shy and they're nervous about responding, I'm like, okay, when I picture that, I imagine it like it could be like this, or maybe what do you think about this? And then I just let them pick one, and that like warms them up into. Or another thing that I pull out is rumor, like what do people say about this, or what rumor have you heard about this? Because rumor doesn't have to be true, and so they don't feel like they're making this hard decision. They're like they have an opportunity to be like, well, maybe this, and they can softball it because I've invited them to.
I think one of the other things that we run into as well. Oh, yes, please.
I have a follow-up question from chat.
Sure.
Because people say there is often a problem with analysis paralysis, with dropping people into something. So what's your plan? And then they still go, but we could have, and now. And yeah, so giving them a this or that is a good answer to that. Or do you have other ways to get people out of their shell and actually do something instead of just thinking about doing
I
it?
had that moment happen, actually.
Yeah.
In Croatia, when we were running our games, we played most recently, in a one-shot, I had an hour and a half. We were driving like a stolen car. A couple of them were pirates. I dropped them on a pirate ship. It was awesome. And the pirates were coming over the sides, and a couple were already on the ship. I did not have a couple of them already swinging at the players, but I set the stage. I let the players put themselves out, and then I put the pirates out, and I described the moment of them coming over the ship and asked them how they wanted to respond. So they were in a heightened situation, but I didn't just wallop them without giving them an opportunity. And one of the players was like, whoa, 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 like, maybe I don't want to be there anymore. And I was like, okay, where do you want to be? It's not that serious. Like, it really wasn't. I was like, yeah, where do you want to put your character? And they were like, well, I think I want to be in the hold. Like, now that there are pirates, I was like, great, move your character into the hold. What are you doing down there? That's awesome. Cool. Like, what are you up to? And I just let them do it. The thing that I remind myself is, well, one, that's not standard. When Spenser drops us in our home game into the action, I'm like, maybe it's going to be so bad good. And I'm ready. And then also I understand that that's scary, but we're just playing. Like, if the person wants to be in the hold now that there's pirates, that's awesome. Run, be free. Like, I think that there's a little bit of just like, yes, great, and let them have their moment. And they had this really cool moment sneaking up to the hold, and they set a trap, and I was like, that's totally fine. I'm gonna have pirates fall into your trap. Absolutely, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Should we do the 3 box?
3 box.
Okay, you said you were gonna do it.
So, Spenser, running Candela Obscura on the channel. It's awesome. Amazing session 0, set up for success. This motherfucker has in his notebook 3 boxes, little boxes drawn out, and 2 of them are filled in with some text, and one of them I think has 1 sentence in it. And that is how he ran the whole season of Candela Obscura. Those were the only notes.
So The reason why is because for me, the most important part of GMing is listening. Listening is everything.
Well, that's not true. You had session 0 notes. You had great session.
Well, it's session 0 notes, but once we got into play, it was about listening and responding. And the 3-box method for me lets me have enough structure that I can set up some backbone for me to fall back on, but not have so much that it can't change if it needs to. So 3-box method, really simple way that I do prep is just your beginning, middle, end. You can go 5 if you're going to have a long session, or if you're setting up multiple sessions at once. You can go 2 if you're running a really short game, but I find 3 to be the sweet spot. And every one of them is a set piece. And we figure out like
what's a set piece?
Each box is an hour of play. It's kind of the way I think about it. By the time it shakes out, you're at like 3 and some change. But each box is something that's happening. What are the 3 important things that are going to happen in this moment? And then I think about it like a TV show. So I'm like, okay, where are we dropping into the story? If we were already in a session and we ended and we were in the middle of something, we're probably jumping right back in, but maybe not. Maybe we fast forwarded a little bit, right? You guys made camp, you relaxed. Where are we jumping in here? What's interesting to us? How are we jumping into the action? And then, what is for them? So that's the beginning. And we talk about like, okay, what each of those boxes has to have a conflict to overcome in some way, right? So like, the set piece is like, what is the action that's occurring here? Where is it occurring? Even roughly. And what is the goal? What's the dramatic question of this part of the adventure?
Give yourself a goal that isn't just kill everything.
Yes.
I'm so serious. Give the players a goal that isn't just kill everything. And if the goal has to be kill everything, make it fast and fun. Just get in, get out. Because sometimes we have combat and maybe we haven't cooked all the way. Maybe it's a bad week. Maybe we have a migraine. But whittling down hit points is not as fun as like you have to get from point A to point B. I literally ran a session where people had to rescue a panther from one character's backstory. And I've never seen players go so hard at something with having little to no context for who they were fighting, because that was a character from their backstory that they were all invested in, and so they were like, anything that stands between me and that cat is gone. And then I added the question of, what if the people standing between you and the cat aren't bad guys? Oh yeah, it's save the cat. I literally did save the cat. In your 3-box session, if you're nervous and kind of stripping this down even more, you can start also like overarching. Your themes can be, or your things that you could do are combat, exploration, puzzle, social. Now we all know nuance exists, so you could have explorative combat or you could have a social puzzle. But if you're starting off and you're like, what are we gonna do? You can kind of break it down into those categories and say, I have 3 boxes. I know I got a player who loves a puzzle. I know I got a player who really loves a social situation. And I got 2 players that just want to hit something really hard and they had a bad week. So I'm going to do a combat, a social, and a puzzle. And then maybe as I'm building, things get a little more nuanced. The combat gets a little puzzly. The social gets a little fighty. But I can hit those 3 beats and drive at something.
Asking for example of what would be the one sentence in one of those boxes. I'm just repeating. Sorry.
Yes. No. Trying to give you a good example.
I can do one.
Sure.
It might not be as good as yours.
No, it's fine. Please.
In Croatia on the pirate ship, one of my players was a pirate whose best friend had fallen overboard and they couldn't save them from drowning. And the sentence was, previously drowned best friend comes back as pirate warlock to take the ship.
One sentence. You're off and running, right? And
then my second sentence, this was based entirely on what I wanted to do, because we had a pirate, like, a boat boat terrain. That's the word I'm looking for. We had a boat terrain. I was like, wouldn't it be cool if they fought something where, like, I was the size of it so that I could, like, loom over them? And so my second box was, Iron Tree, this is a forest they came up with. Iron Tree Colossus rises and is possessed by player's grandma. So I had this massive colossal giant that was kind of theoretically peaceful and then was possessed by a demon.
And I think having a dramatic question in each of those is really important too. I'll generally write it below the box or maybe at the bottom or something, but it's like, can they escape? That's a dramatic question. Will they befriend the warlock,
yes,
or will they fight them?
Mine was, will they save or will they befriend the warlock captain?
Yeah.
And then the Colossus was...
Oh
yeah, it was... will they escape or will they try to kill grandma? But the overarching question that kind of carried me through, because I recognize that was a little bit of a weak question, is will they be able to get the artifact?
Yeah.
That was embedded in the Colossus. So I had kind of like a one I was keeping my eye on because grandma was important to me, but they knew that they were trying to get an artifact that was embedded in this giant thing.
So, oh yes, please.
Okay, question for chat, for the internet. How do you come up with good dramatic questions? That is a very open-ended question.
Like, how do you come up with good leading questions? Do you mean like questions that I ask the players? So the main skill to cultivate as a GM for me, thing I always am looking to cultivate better, is how to be more curious. I ask the question I want to know. Mm-hmm. So practicing that is really helpful. But I will say, like, ooh, there's a moth or something. That's beautiful. It's very curious. But I do think it's a great question. Speaking of questions, it's a great question because this is the thing that I think a lot of people fear, that they're not going to ask the right questions. And one, prepping questions in advance. You'll see this during the one shot that I'm going to run here after the signing and our break. I'm going to run a one shot. I'm going to ask some questions at the top. I don't have a plan for what's going to happen. I'm going to ask some questions. We're going to answer some questions, and then we're going to run. So you'll see it there. You'll see how specific they are, how they're used. But I think that the way that I learned how to do that was by asking a lot of bad questions and failing, and just learning what questions can I ask that get me what I need. And if you have a table that you trust and that you feel comfortable with, letting them know, just like they are learning this game for the first time, so are you, and you're going to try things and you might need to try again. Yeah. And that it being okay for it to not be perfect the first time around, but knowing, okay, if I need this thing, can I just ask for it? How do I ask for it specifically?
I think TTRPGs are a really beautiful place to fail in earnest because you're playing with your friends.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Or if you're not, like, what's the worst that's going to happen, I guess, really? But also, I think the way that I try to ask better questions is I try to think what I wish someone would ask me. Like, you know when you come up with that really creative thing and you're like, oh, I really just want to talk about this. Like, oh, I wish someone would ask me about this. I just try to remember, like, what would I want someone to ask me if I said something that cool?
Okay, complicated question about how to kind of gauge whether the people need more time to get into role-playing or whether you should cut, and just how to make the decision.
So one thing that I find GMing that might be really useful is that if I just, even with players who are experienced, even with players that have been playing together for a year or more, if I just turn them loose in a scene without, like, and just say run, if I don't give them the guidance, or if I don't point them in a direction, they still struggle with role playing because they just have to make up the conversations that they're having. So there's a couple of ways of addressing this. I find if I really want it to be casual conversation, I will ask. I will find prep a very dramatic question. Maybe not very dramatic. Maybe that's too dramatic. But I will prep a dramatic question to ask the players at the beginning of the session just to get them going. So I'm like, I might ask something as casual as like, what disagreement are you two having about something that occurred in the last session? Now I'm prompting them to have some kind of, especially if I know those two characters have a kind of adversarial relationship, that's like really low stakes, but I can prompt them to have that kind of discussion, right? But I think the other one, the one that's more useful for me, is that if I want them to role play, I have to give them something to role play about. So even if it's the beginning of the session, I have to feed them something that gets them talking to each other, not just to an NPC, because then I have to be speaking. How do I get them to all talk to each other, and coming up with something that they have to discuss amongst themselves breaks that ice a lot easier. I'm not thinking of a good example off the top of my head, but I'll think on it. But knowing that, like, if you are coming in with something that they have to work on together, that will tend to make it better. Like, even something as simple as like, you all see in the town that you've arrived in, there's a tavern, and there's also a barn where there's two people who are having a heated discussion, and you see over on the side a sort of shadowy figure who's watching one of the members of the party. You see this one, you see that, and you see that. Three of you turn back to each other. What do we? Sorry, clapping. What do we? What direction are we going? Now the players have to talk to each other.
That's a really good example, because if Spenser hadn't described the shadowy figure wouldn't have existed. And I think it's really important to remember in TTRPGs that it doesn't exist until somebody describes it. And so a lot of times as a player, I'm like, I can feel that I don't know what the GM wants me to be doing because I don't know that something exists that they definitely think exists. Or as the GM, I've run a game and been like, oh, I dropped them into the scene and I didn't set them up for success because I didn't tell them this thing existed, so now I need to. And that way they are prompted in the correct direction. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
To keep going on the 3-box thing, the middle box, I try and always make it something that they didn't expect, or something that changes their trajectory in a significant way, right? So we think about like the midpoint of a film, something occurs that sort of like gives us a new direction. So think about what you can put there that shifts the story a little bit a different way.
So in my example with the like colossal giant, the thing that I did was that they knew, everyone had told them that the Colossus guarding this island was violent, and it wasn't. It was perfectly peaceful. It was possessed. And so instead of just going in guns blazing, they had to decide, did they want to attack this thing or did they want to try to fix that problem?
So in that middle box, identifying something the players don't know that they now learn, that changes what their approach is. Pretty easy way to like give the appearance of a mystery without having to write a whole mystery, right? There's intrigue of some kind. And then your climax, the last box, is the culmination of the first 2 boxes. What they set out to do and what the information they have now together means.
And it's spicier.
So you're also escalating every box too, if you can. And then providing lulls as well in between them. So you have those low points and the high points, and the low points and the high points. But thinking of those 3 boxes being your beginning, middle, end, your middle, the twist, your end, the climax, you now have an entire session that you can just run for 3 hours. And if you have those dramatic questions in place, it's very easy to be able to go back to that dramatic question when you don't know what to do next, or lean on the themes when you don't know what to do next.
I think the other cool thing is that's 3 boxes. And if it goes entirely off the rails, you didn't spend 10 days of your life prepping it. So you aren't like emotionally invested 10 days into it. Hopefully you're only maybe emotionally invested an hour or 2.
Yeah. And also I think if you understand the structure of the 3 boxes, right? Your like setup, your middle twist of some kind, and then your climax, no matter what happens, you can fit that structure into wherever they go, right? We have this thing that we use, that I use all the time, that I think on the internet has been dubbed quantum clues, but we talk about it a little bit differently in the Open Fear set that comes out, which is this idea that no matter where they go or what they do, they're going to find the information that points them to what they need to find. So instead of putting a thing in a specific place, or instead of having a specific answer to how they do a thing, providing the opportunity for them to go and search the room, and they go, I'm going to go to the trash can and I'm going to rifle through it. That sounds like a great place where I could put some information. What can I put in there that points them to where I want them to go next? I'm not making them find the one thing that I had, because there's, for me, nothing more boring than just having you roll over and over and over again until you happen to stumble across the one place where I, as the GM, put a thing and then you find it. Build the drama, have them set the scene, and then have them find the important piece of information where it's most interesting for them to find it, given what they are doing in the scene currently. And
this is kind of a tricky conversation, because if you were in the earlier talk where I said I have beef with adventures, often it's kind of a popping the hood conversation to be yeah, I'm gonna put it wherever you look. And it doesn't mean I'm gonna put it in the first place you look. It doesn't mean that I'm gonna give you the piece in its entirety. I have a lot of different levers that I can pull there, but I am gonna put it where you look. If the players think the question is, can we cross the river to the village? I will probably put the village either directly across, or if they almost drown and go downriver, the village will be there too. But it will probably be a really different village. If they cross the river easily, now maybe the village is hostile. If they almost drown going downriver, maybe there's some peaceful villagers that give them a hand. I am going to change the fiction, and it will evolve with them, but I am gonna move that damn village. And I think that it seems like railroading when you speak about it that honestly, but the players don't know that that's going to happen. And sometimes the dramatic question isn't I'll move the village. Maybe it's they either get to village A or village B, or they get to the village, or they have to go through the deep, dark, spooky wood filled with ghosts. It's not necessarily always that, but I am prepared. And I think that is behaving that way is born of the players being the protagonists. It's knowing that you can move things as you need to. And it is also a discussion that when we have it sounds like a track and is in fact really just a bunch of pieces that you can move around. I often make adversary stat blocks that are a little more generic, and on the fly, and I'll be and this guy's fire themed now, and this guy's acid. And depending on how it goes, I'm I can maneuver things because I want to be nimble.
So I kind of go off of just story structure. So if you look at a 5-act play or a 5-act, just use all of that as your structure, and that will help. Yeah,
you can use a play.
Yeah, a
2-act structure.
So one of the things that I do a lot, actually, this brings up a great point, is that I will have players narrate if they roll a success but with fear. I'll have them narrate how they succeed, and then I'll describe what happens next. Make sure that they get the success that they were looking for, because the success of fear does mean they succeed, but there's some kind of complication. I'll usually pass that off to them, unless I have a specific idea about how I want to change it. Also, gives me time to think as the GM. I then let them talk, I'm listening, and I'm responding with something that gives them the opportunity to decide what to do next because of the conflict I've thrown in their way, right? Whereas a failure with hope or with fear, sometimes I will also turn that back to the player. I'll go, tell me what happens here that caused you to not do, what happened? What went wrong? What did you not see? Turning that back over to them also gives them the trust that they're going to put themselves in a spot. And if they don't give you, if they don't give you anything, or if they give you something that's not good enough, then I'll just build on what they've given me, right? But turning over that trust to the players and saying, you tell me what goes wrong here, and then building on that with them creates this level of trust between you and the players that allows you to know that they are going to provide, that they understand that conflict and adversity is an important and fun part of the game, and also means that they trust you.
Yeah.
They'll turn things over to you and let you narrate, and they won't be watching to see if you're tricking them.
I think it can be really helpful to remind the players that they are not necessarily their characters. And in the horror movie where like the person is going down into the dark basement with only a flashlight that's flickering already, you're like, don't do that. That's like not something you want to do if you live, but if it is something you want to do if you're the main character. And so telling the players just like up front in your session 0, like, run into the basement, go tackle the monsters.
Yeah, we've embraced danger as one of the things. Yeah, one last question.
Okay. Just quickly, how do you build trust with players who have been spoon-fed everything so far and then just trusting, just waiting for you to give them everything?
For me, I piecemeal them, meaning I give them a little bit and see how they respond, and let that slowly grow. So, like, I might ask them, I might say, it's a good example. Like you watch as the adversary, as this pirate that you're facing, you watch as their eyes shift and change, and then for a moment, you see somebody that you used to know behind those. Will you tell me who it is? Who do they remind you of so much? They tell you who they remind you of, and you then go, and for a moment you think it's them, and then it's gone, and it's not them. And just these moments of like letting them bring their backstory in helps to give them permission to like speak to the narrative. And then next time you might ask them something that could be true, a little more true, a little bit bigger. And that like slow feed, if you have somebody who's having trouble.
I also piecemeal it out. If I have a player who I'm like, when you can tell a player's been hurt before, you're like, who hurt you? I invite them to make decisions about something that is definitely going to benefit them. Like, I invite them to collaborate in places where if they make something cool, it can only be to their benefit. Because, like, Spenser and I have played together for years. If he invites me to collaborate, I'm going to make the thing that's going to ruin my character's life. And I love that. But some players are like, well, if I tell you about this scary thing, then you're going to hit me with it. And I'm like, yeah, isn't that fun? Maybe it's not fun for them yet. So I invite them to come up with things that are exciting, that if they create an ally, I'm going to make sure that ally really delivers on helping them out of a tight spot.
Yeah.
Or they make a safe space, or they have a cool item or something that can only be to their benefit. So they get to not only have the experience of like knowing I'm not going to beat them over the head with their creativity, but then they feel so cool because the whole table gets to benefit from how smart and clever they were, which is like so right. So.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's time.
I think that's it.
That's time. Thank you, friends, so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.